Welcome to Creative Brews. I'm Kristen, and this is your weekly dose of creativity, where photography, design, and life come together. So, grab your favorite drink, and let's talk about what's brewing. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Creative Brews. If you are new here, hello, first off, and thank you so much for being here, of course. Please do not forget to rate, follow, subscribe, all the things, so that way you don't miss any episodes. But I have been doing a mini series, which this is the last one on the list, which is awesome. I've had a lot of fun with this little series. I don't know what it is about series, if that's a word, but I do like doing them. So maybe there's more to come in the future, more series. But yeah, basically, I just jotted down, like, I think 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7. I jotted down 7 of these, and I think it all began with, if you build it, they will come, or something like that episode. And I think it was exactly that episode that I was like, you know what? This would be a pretty cool little series. So, like I said, I definitely, obviously plan on doing a season 2 of this show. And hopefully more seasons to come. So, yeah, maybe there's more series to come. So, we'll see. But yeah, today's episode is that more followers automatically means more success. And in a world that glorifies numbers, it's easy to start believing that your worth or your business or whatever it is that you're doing in your life depends on your follower count. Your follower count. By the way, I am filming this at 5 in the morning, so I am up. I do have coffee. So, yeah, get you some coffee. If it's in the morning for you. Or if not, get you a drink or whatever it is, a snack. So, yes, but here's the truth. More followers doesn't always mean more success. And what I mean by success is I say success because it's different for everyone. So in someone's eyes, success might be money, material things. In someone else's eyes, it might be peace, fulfillment, so that's why I just leave it to the word success and whatever that means for you. So, yeah, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and preface this video. I try to do this with everyone. If you've missed any of the other Mindset Myths episodes, they don't really link together. And I kind of did that on purpose just because these are, not really like meant to link together. So that's why it's more of a series and not like a course, if that makes any sense. So I definitely always try to say, do your own research, of course. And of course, my opinion, is probably different than yours. You might not agree with me. That's okay. I'm definitely not here to. I'm only here to, and with this series, it's more so to offer information that I have. I've done my research and stuff like that. So yeah, I encourage everyone to do their own research. Yeah. And so with every episode, I break down each episode into, I guess you could say, like 3 major categories. So I offer the psychology, the spiritual / woo-woo insights and facts, as well as the reframing. So usually I try to end each episode with some kind of way to reframe or maybe make this mindset, maybe rebuild it, rethink it for it to work for you, quote unquote. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. So I always start each episode with the psychology insights and facts. So every like, comment, or follow gives you a dopamine hit, our brain's reward chemical. Obviously, that's what the dopamine hit means. It feels good, so we chase it, but it also becomes addictive. And a lot of times you don't really notice that in the beginning stages. We fall into comparison mode, or eventually you do. We see big creators and assume their success is bigger, but visibility doesn't always equal value. So that's a good thing to remember here, is just because you see, and this episode, I'm going to go ahead and kind of pause real quick. This episode actually does kind of go along with an episode that I did before called The Overnight Success Illusion. It kind of goes with that one. So they don't really link to each other. They just kind of go along with each other. But I think together they kind of offer different pieces of information, different ways to think of things and stuff like that. But yeah, just because someone has a super big following, like all of, some major creators, whether that be YouTube or celebrity even, it's all about perception, It really is, because if you perceive someone as higher than you and, they know more than me, then that's what you're telling yourself. It all begins in the brain, your mind, your subconscious mind. So, yes, we're tricked by survivorship bias, seeing only the big success stories and forgetting about the countless smaller creators quietly thriving behind the scenes. So I think I've used that term before, survivorship bias, and I did get some inquiry on what exactly does that mean. So I looked it up, and this is the definition that you will find. So they give a definition and a clear definition. So you got the, excuse me, it gives me the definition, I just Googled this, by the way. The definition, the clear definition in psychological terms, as well as an example. So, in psychology, survivorship bias is understood as cognitive bias, a mental shortcut that distorts rational thinking by focusing on the people or things that quote unquote survived a process while overlooking those that didn't. So here's the clear definition in psychological terms. Survivorship bias is a cognitive distortion that occurs when individuals or researchers draw conclusions based only on the subset of people or cases that have succeeded, persisted, or remained visible while ignoring those that have failed, dropped out, or disappeared from observation. So it says that this bias affects judgment, memory, and perception. An example is when studying resilience, if researchers only interview people who recovered from trauma and those who didn't, they risk overstimulating which coping strategies, quote unquote, work. This gives a skewed view of human behavior, that recovery is more common or easier than it actually is. So that is basically the definition of what exactly survivorship bias means, because I did get some inquiry about that. Okay, and but yeah, basically when we start creating just for numbers, you do lose the authenticity, and you often lose why you even started in the first place, and it no longer becomes fun and all of that jazz. That's what I call basically authenticity fatigue. When creating stops feeling joyful and starts feeling like a job for approval. So you start forcing things instead of it just flowing, in other words. So I'm going to kind of read some facts here. It probably kind of leads into a lot of what we just said, but social validation loop, which again is what we just talked about in that first, I have these broken down into bullet points. So in that first bullet point, the dopamine hits from likes and followers create addictive behavior. That is the social validation loop. The comparison trap. So again, we often equate visibility with value, but large followings can be filled with passive audiences or bots. Engagement and connection is what definitely matters more. So yes, I know it sounds crazy, but we do definitely live in a world where people have let numbers get to their head, so they have literally bought followers, which I think is just crazy. But when you're doing the whole social media thing, I need a following, I need to look important, and blah, blah, blah. I have heard some people buying followers, which is ridiculous. Again, the survivorship bias, we see influencers are creators with big followings and assume that that's the only path to success, forgetting about countless thriving creators with smaller, more loyal audiences. Authenticity fatigue, as I mentioned before, trying to please algorithms or trends can definitely lead to burnout, creative block, or losing your original voice or why you even started in the first place. Data versus depth. So, true business growth often comes from conversations, repeat clients, referrals, and genuine impact, not vanity metrics, not, it often comes from success, often comes from creating those relationships, in other words. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the spiritual / woo-woo insights here. We're gonna swap it up and go through the facts and then kind of break that down. I feel like a lot of times that's the easier route. Okay, so energy alignment. Chasing followers from a place of lack. Quote unquote, I need more to be enough. Attracts more scarcity energy. Focus on service and alignment instead. That magnetizes authentic growth. Try your best to not get caught in the chase, in other words. Frequency over following. This is why I am so big on protecting your energy, and that's the reason why I created that series earlier this year, is because everything begins with energy, okay? So we're all energetic human beings. If you don't protect your energy, you're not protecting your peace. It's just a chain effect. So definitely a domino effect. That's the reason why I'm so big on frequency and energy alignment and all this other stuff, is because your vibration, your authenticity, purpose, and presence, the list goes on, determines your success more than the number beside your name or your profile photo or whatever. Divine timing, expansion happens when you're ready. So when you have no doubt in your mind that you are ready, energetically and practically, not when an algorithm says so. Collective consciousness. Every follower is a reflection of the energy you're putting out. Nurture the souls already in your space instead of obsessing over who isn't. I can't tell you how many times I have kind of seen that happen. And a lot of times the people who originally started following you will sometimes unfollow. Because people can sense and they can tell when someone's being authentic versus not. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind whenever you are trying to build your presence online, whether that be your website, your Instagram, TikTok, etc., YouTube, etc. Purpose over popularity. You're here to impact, not impress. I have said that recently in another episode. I think it was... I can't exactly remember which episode it was. They're kind of all like running together now at this point. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the last episode that I just did. So, yes, impact vibrates longer than numbers ever can. So, let's swap over to, so that was basically the facts. We'll kind of go over some more of the information here. When you're chasing followers from a place of lack, the universe mirrors that energy back to you. You attract more wanting instead of receiving. But when you show up to serve and create from alignment, your frequency shifts and you become more magnetic to the right people. Divine timing matters. Growth that's aligned will come when your energy and capacity are ready to hold it. Every follower is a soul, not just a number. Nurture the ones who are already here. Otherwise, you will most likely lose them. They're part of your purpose right now. So just kind of some things to remember and think about there. All right. So let's go ahead and I did find some additional facts and research while I was doing all of this. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll go ahead and dive into that. Studies show engagement rates drop as follower count rises, meaning smaller creators often have stronger, more personal communities. 60 to 70% of small business income often comes from repeat customers or referrals, not social media followers. Creators with micro followings, so usually anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000, have the highest conversion and trust rates online. Major brands now actively, and I thought this was a fun fact because I have seen this myself, and I have worked with a major brand probably a few episodes ago, maybe. I can't exactly remember what the episode was, but I have worked with a major brand recently, I'll just say, on my Instagram, TikTok, and my YouTube. Major brands, like I just said, now actively seek micro and even nano influencers because of their authenticity and connection that they have. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I can definitely account for that. So yeah, again, remember, smaller doesn't mean less. That's the whole illusion proportion of all of this. Sometimes smaller, I about said stronger, I about said this backwards actually. Sometimes smaller means stronger. So let's go ahead and dive into the reframe. So how you can reframe all of this in your brain to, maybe think about it a different way. So success isn't just about how many followers, it's about how deeply you serve. Focus on community over clout. Nurture the ones, again, that are already here. They're your foundation of your growth. They are the foundation of your growth. And honestly, again, if you always take all this back to consistency, if you're not consistent, then it often leads to burnout. at least from my perspective. And also, too, if you don't have a sound foundation, like even with building a home, if your home is not on a sound foundation, a strong foundation, it'll do what? Crumble and basically fall into itself. So kind of just take that image in your head and sort of apply it to yourself here. Ask yourself, would I still create this if only 5 people saw it? If the answer is yes, that's real alignment. Again, I'm going to take it back to an example of me with this podcast. Okay, my YouTube, my podcast, Instagram, even TikTok, whatever. But I'm just going to use this podcast in this example here. If only 5 people were to watch, or like a handful of people, I would still do this. Like, I'm not doing all of this because somebody's paying me to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing all of this because I truly find all of this and me sharing information and stuff like that and sharing my perspectives and, and just things like that are very interesting to me. And so that connection, I guess you could say, is what is very interesting. So, measure success and impact, not impressions. In meaning, not metrics, basically. So don't measure your success in the metrics of just numbers and how many people are following you or whatever, or how many people are liking your videos and all of that. 9 times out of 10, people who offer or, can offer a lot to the world are often overseen anyway. Why do you think artists, whether that be singers, songwriters, painters, the list can literally go on, why do you think a lot of them, while they're alive and while they're creating, they got overlooked? And they got overlooked, tossed to the side. No, we don't want to work with you. No, that's stupid. No, that's not the aesthetic that we're looking for right now. No, based off of social media, that's not popular. We don't want to work with you, right? And then when that artist passes away, what ends up happening? A lot of times their work skyrockets and becomes millions of dollars. We've seen that history repeat itself, I don't know how many times. And I hate to take it to that place, but I know we can all relate to that. And I can already hear and see people saying, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It's sad but true. Your worth and your work don't grow with followers, okay? It just doesn't. They grow with intention, consistency, a sound foundation. The list could also go on. But, I believe that is basically it. So, I'll go ahead and I'll say this bit before I end this episode. What if success, if I could talk, wasn't about how many followers, but how deeply you serve? I really like that. That's the reason why I read it again. Again, what if every post, every offer, every story reached exactly who it was meant to? So, whoever was meant to see your story, your post, your offer for that day was truly meant to see it. Even if that's just 10 people. Even if it was just 5 people, So, again, like I said before, it's success is not measured in numbers, it's measured in impact. And I'll leave it at this, and then I have some other things to say. Your message, your energy, your light, that's what people truly follow. So you need to, instead of worrying about the chase and numbers, you need to not only nurture the following that you already have, like the people that are already there supporting you, but also you've got to remember to bring it all back to yourself. You not only have to stay authentic, but you have to continuously work on yourself. I know all of this sounds like a lot of information. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but I can truly tell you that when you start focusing on your own lane, it's just you in your lane, even if you have to create your own lane, because I've had to do that. It becomes so much easier. And I believe that could be a separate episode in of itself. So again, the next time you catch yourself checking your follower count or how many views your video got or how many likes, etc., take a breath, come back to your why, pour love into the people already sitting and supporting at your creative table, as well as pour love into yourself. You have to fill your cup before you can pour into all the facets and areas of your life. So remember, connection over collection always. And your art, your story, your purpose, that's the real success. That's what this whole illusion proportion is all about here. That's the major part here. So, yeah, you are your success. So, yeah, again, I hope all of this made sense. I hope it offered a different perspective and point of view and just some things to think about. Again, I have enjoyed doing this whole series. I'm sure there will be more to come in the future. Again, I believe this kind of takes us into the second week of November now. So after this episode, I do plan on taking it to motherhood and talking about that, because I am currently 10 months postpartum. So I think it's only fitting to kind of circle back. Plus, I kept saying, I'm going to do a motherhood episode, which I think I've only done one, and then I may have touched on motherhood here and there in just previous episodes, kind of like what I'm doing now. So, yes, there are plans to do a motherhood episode. I know some people were inquiring about that. And hopefully, and as far as I know, I will have some other guests on the show to offer So that way you get my point of view from motherhood and a different point of view from motherhood, as well as we'll have the dads on as well. So I think that episode is really going to be fun. I think, again, it'll offer a different point of view from not only the moms, but the dads. And so that way we kind of get a whole round table discussion going there. So, yes, anyways, not to make this longer than it needs to be, I hope you all have enjoyed this episode and this series. I cannot believe that this year is almost over with. That is ridiculous. And we almost have a 12-month-old. This is all just crazy, to be quite honest. But anyways, I hope you all have a great week. And again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting, as always. Please do not forget to rate, comment, subscribe, all the things. It definitely helps, seriously. And that way you don't miss an episode. So, yeah. And again, if this resonated with you and if you thought of someone who could definitely benefit from hearing this episode, please send it their way. All right. Well, I will see you all in the next episode. Bye.